Hey, hello, Serverless Land. Thank you so much for joining the Serverless Office Hours on Twitch, YouTube, and LinkedIn. So if this is the first time that you're joining, welcome, and please let us know in the chat box where you're tuning in from. But for all of those who have been with us before and scratching your head, wondering who I am and where are the usual hosts, so while they left us to hold the fort, and hopefully they're enjoying some well-deserved time of the streams, but fear not. We're here to make sure that your serverless thirst is quenched in this hot July. That was a mouthful, really difficult to say. But I am Giuseppe Battista. I am a startup architect here in the UK. I usually host Let's Build a Startup on Thursdays, 3 p.m. BST, 10 a.m. EST. But I'm really fond of serverless technologies, and I'll be your host for today. As you may know, the main topic for today is AWS Powertools, a developer toolkit to implement serverless best practices and increase developer velocity. So baking into your code all of these nice and best practices. And I have here Alex, a specialist solutions architect who has contributed to the development of Powertools. In particular, today we're gonna cover data validation in TypeScript with Powertools. So stay tuned. We have, I think, a lineup of some typing code live, defying the demo gods and everything that we usually do here on this show. So Alex, welcome. Before we get
Thank you.
started with the actual data validation, can you give us an overview of what Power Tools are in general for those who have never used them before? I'd be super curious to learn more.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for having me. Thanks for joining the show and having this opportunity. My name is Alex Schueren. I'm a specialist SA based in Germany, working at AWS for a couple of years. And I work mainly with customers and help them modernize, improve application, build new stuff. And it happened over the years that I tend to work more on serverless. So this is where I feel a little bit more home than on containers or other things. But I've been developer couple of years now. And I am part of the team Powertools for AWS Lambda, which is a specialized team that tries to build an open source library that takes all the best practice we have collected over time. Like how do you do observability on serverless, on Lambda with other services and different technologies? How do you do various things on Lambda as a best practice? So we try to learn from customers. We try to extract the best practice from community, from internal communities, what we see, and we try to put them in code, which is a little bit different approach than most people do. So we want to enable people while they're building code, improving developer experience on Lambda, and making life of every developer a little bit easier, and saving their paper cuts and any issues they might encounter during day-to-day work. Yeah.
I've seen a demo today of Power Tools. I've seen that you've revamped the whole website, and I was really intrigued by the fact that it brings down by 60% the amount of code that developers have to actually write. I think that's a fantastic achievement. And how is that actually orchestrated behind the scene? Can you give us a little bit more of information about how that happens?
Yeah, I brought a couple of slides. So my idea for today
Yeah.
was I have really minimal amount of slides. I don't want to bore you with the more PowerPoint, but my focus today will be a demo application that I will live code. So there is an empty Lambda handler. We'll start and they'll see where we land based on the architecture we desire. Maybe we'll add a couple of things. Some unexpected things will happen. I don't know. Like I will, I'll use Powertools and improvise where I can. And before that, I want to share more information about Powertools in general. So it's more scoped, so how we work, what it is, what to expect, how the roadmap looks like. So people who are not familiar with Powertools can catch up and at least have an idea what we're talking about today. But just a quick question in the chat. Who of you have heard of Powertools? Just press 1 or plus, or drop us a comment. Would like to see like an overview of people who have heard maybe about that, who are using that, maybe in production, maybe in their own application. Just drop us a message on what you're using, how you're using, what do you like about that. Just would like to hear and yeah, and oh,
Yeah,
plus
maybe
one.
even the
Oh, we see
language.
someone.
Even
Yeah,
the
that's of
language
course.
that
Yeah,
you're
yeah.
actually using it, because I know we have TypeScript, we have Java, we have, what do we have? Python. Do we have C Sharp?
We have .NET. Yeah,
.NET,
exactly, and
nice.
that's it. 4 languages,
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah.
we
So
have
let me quickly share
lots
my
of tools.
screen. I have a couple of slides, and then we can blaze through them, and then finally go to the IDE and write some code. All right.
Python forever. Love that
Python.
silence.
Sec.
And
Oh, no screen.
yeah, I'm waiting for your screen. And while we're waiting, any more programming languages? Do we have any Rustaceans around here? I know that we do not have
I
Powertools.
heard there is a cult of people who are
Mm,
using PHP on Lambda, but I'm pretty
PHP
sure
on Lambda. Who is
nobody
using
is
PHP
here.
on Lambda?
Yeah, yeah.
Let
They're
us know.
silent mostly. They don't speak about that. They ship stuff to production, so they're not evangelizing anything. But I heard a lot of people are using that. Maybe we have a couple of
Actually,
folks
PHP
here.
was one of the first languages I've used in my life, so I'm kind of fond of it, but I
Yeah.
haven't used. So
All right.
there you go. So I'll shut up also because my voice is abandoning me. Oh, there's
Yeah.
somebody in the chat who actually likes PHP on Lambda. Oh, wow. Okay. All right.
All right, I'll take a couple of slides. If you have any questions, Giuseppe, just ask if anything is not clear, if you want more clarification or anything. So the basic idea of Powertools come from so-called serverless lands for AWS. So there is a well-architected framework that we have created for customers where we give guidance how to improve your architecture, how to improve your application before you go to production. So the idea is that we ask a couple of questions and say, what do you think about security? Have you done this? How do you handle specific things? How do you handle encryption? How do you secure data? How do you protect stuff? And over time, we try to, let's say, refine this well-architected tool for different type of workloads. So there are some workloads that are more generic. How do you run stuff on EC2? And you have a server and you have 3-tier architecture. Okay, all right. And then over time, people started to ask for guidance for more specific workloads like data processing, data analytics, ML workloads, IoT workloads. And all they have like special variations of these well-architected things. And some of them were serverless. People ask like, how do I do best practice in serverless? How do I prepare my serverless architecture, my application for before I go to production? What should I consider? What is important to look for? What kind of questions can I address? So we formulated a couple of questions, and one of them was, for example, how do you evaluate serverless application health? And in particular, how do you do distributed tracing and instrumentation by adding additional context within a Lambda function? How do you do structured logging? And how do you add business metrics or application metrics in general while using serverless applications? And we actually realized that exactly this type of question started to become a problem for many customers to implement. While they understood the challenge, like, okay, I need to do that, I need to implement that, many over a longer period of time still didn't resolve this risk. So the idea was back then, wait a second, if so many customers are having a challenge, why don't we build a solution for that so they can just use it? And this will be, of course, a little bit opinionated, which is fine. That's a price for that. It's not like we can cover everything, but at least it gives you some tools, it gives you some opportunity, ability to say, okay, if I use this tool, it will mitigate this risk, and I can check off this box and say, okay, I have built-in distributed tracing, or I have built-in structured logging for me. And this is where Powertools came from, where we started to build an open source library that has, at the beginning, a logger, metrics, and tracer utility, which is a combination of all these best practices that we have collected to improve developer velocity. So you can spend time to actually build more and ship more. And less time, how do I configure the logger and make sure that my logs actually are structured and I can query them at the end of the day if something goes wrong, because most of the time things will go wrong at some point and you have to troubleshoot. So with Powertools, you just add through annotation. This is a Python example on the Lambda handler where you can say, I want to add a tracer, I want to add the logger and the metrics, and this will capture everything that you need. In this case, you can have structured logs, you can capture cold starts, you can add a business metric, custom metric for a cart checkout. And this is all performant, and you don't have to, for example, send a synchronous request to CloudWatch to create this metric. So we take care of all the things that needs to be done right, and you can use them and you can focus on something else.
And an
And
annotation. Sorry, just
yeah,
to clarify, like an
sure.
annotation is that little like decorator that you put on on top of the definition of the method in Python. So it's basically a shortcut to a wrapper of the function that is going to specialize the function even further. And while I have interrupted you, apologies for that.
Sure.
There's a question coming from the chat that I am afraid to pick up because I don't know, but maybe you do. Frank L81. So what's the best way to process data encrypted without decrypting it in Lambda?
Frank, I have a treat for you. So if you're using Python, then you're lucky. You're lucky to be here today, and I can just in a second share more with you how to do that. I mean, we have something in Powertools that you can use, and I can show you how it works. So let me proceed. It started with observability, and we said, okay, this is things that we think are interesting for developers and make the life easier. But over time, we identified more areas where we can introduce best practice and also opinionated solution. And 50% of them, all these other utilities that we have developed, came actually from the community, where the community started to see the value in this open source project. And they started to open feature requests, but also contribute to RFCs, where they contributed their ideas and their opinions, how they worked, what their best practice are, and how we should implement it. But we had also cases where customer and community members actually donated features. They built entirely and donated to the AWS and said, okay, you can use this feature. For example, the feature flag for Python was implemented by Ryan Eisenberg, who is an AWS hero working at CyberArk. So he built the entire feature and said, look, I can share it with you, just make it open source so other people can benefit from that. And these are my learnings that I have collected. So a lot of the community is involved. We have it in 4 languages: Python, TypeScript, Java, and .NET. And they're not generated. So it's not like CDK, where you can have the same features across all language very easily. If one is available, you can use it in different languages. That's not the case, because we are building every language by hand. So we spent a little bit more time to think about how would this feature look like in TypeScript versus Java, because these are different ecosystems and different development environments, and it's not easy to just map them one-to-one and say, look, we generate all the code and then it's done. So we spent a little bit more time. This is the choice we made, and we see value in that, but we pay with something called feature parity. So because we cannot ship feature very fast, but it also not on an equal scale how important these features are. So for some people, for example, the parser feature is very important for Python and TypeScript, but Java and .NET, they have the typing system. It doesn't make sense for them to run it. Maybe not. But so there is a different priority based on the language and how we implement that. This is actually, I see an outdated slide. The parser is in beta right now for TypeScript, and there is nothing there, so I have to update it. So today we will show the feature called parser, and we have it's available in Python using a library called Pydantic, which helps you to validate your payloads or your data structure. And for TypeScript, we use a library called Zod, which is very popular in the community, one of the most downloaded and very famous libraries. And we build on top of that and created a feature that allows you to validate this stuff and make it a little bit more easier. Yeah, Frank knows Zod, right? Okay, so you're also you have two treats now: Zod and the encryption as well. Yeah, so with Powertools, we cover roughly 51% of the serverless lands, mapping all the questions, all the things you need to improve. By using Powertools, you can cover most of the stuff as well. How we operate. So Powertools is built entirely in public. We don't have like internal user stories or features or priorities or whatsoever. It's entirely public. All the repositories, all the code is there. You can use it. If you have any features, if you want to participate in the community, if you want to contribute, you're more than welcome. We are looking for people who want to engage with us, who want to share their best practices, who want to share what they have been building in the team. in the companies, and scale it to others and share it to others, enable other developers be more productive and spend more time having fun and less configuring Logger. We have an official website. You can check it out, powertools.aws.dev. We got a couple of references there as well, so you have an idea what kind of customers are using Powertools. And we have also a community Discord, which I highly encourage you to join if you want to learn more about Powertools. But you can also have, if you have a question about platform engineering, if you have a question about general development on Lambda and serverless, feel free to join. We have a vibrant community with over 700 members now. So you can participate and ask any questions and get any help you want on these topics. Now let's go to demo. 15 minutes.
Yeah.
Wow.
Can I actually stop you for a sec? Because first of all, there was an attempt to give a response to that question. Data masking utility in Powertools Python.
Yeah, as Andrea mentioned, Andrea is my colleague. He's working also in Powertools, is my team member. Exactly. So Frank, we have, maybe I can share it here. So we have Powertools. Python has a utility called data masking. Let me show you.
Can I also ask you to zoom a little bit in?
Say it again.
Can I ask you to zoom on just a little bit in?
Yeah, of course. So we have a couple of features, and the latest for Python called data masking. And it's a feature that allows you to encrypt and decrypt things, like part of your payload that you get within the Lambda. You can encrypt and decrypt, and you can also erase, irreversible, erase a couple of informations that you have from your dictionary or structured object. And this helps you to filter any sensitive information you don't want to send forward to other services, to other providers, third parties, whatsoever. If you want to filter them out, they're not going to be locked or anyway. There is an entire section. It's a huge part of documentation, very detailed description with examples how it works, what you need to do. So the way you do it, you declare a data masking, and you say, I want to erase a couple of based from this data, I want to erase these fields. And encryption, there is a little bit more to configure, but not much. It's just encryption provider. You do a data masking with the encryption provider, and you say, I want to encrypt my data, and that's basically it. So this is how you encrypt data within Lambda, and this is much easier. Trust me. If you want to try it on your own to have all this KMS and data key and master key and all this stuff, this is way easier to do and straightforward comparing to if you would roll your own solution. Yeah.
Sounds good. All right. So I know that there are a lot of other questions, but I wanted to just jump into the demo and see what we have. But folks, remember that you can join the Discord and we can take it over from
absolutely, Frank. Join the Discord. We can have a chat. Ask me any question, and you can also ask other people within the Powertools team. They're more than happy to engage with you. We have an architecture. So the idea for today is to have something called an order service. E-commerce, you have a order queue, you get events. It's full of some structure, some orders you have to process. And we have a Lambda function that takes these orders as a batch and verifies a couple of things like, okay, is this product available at all? Is it in stock? Is our payment system verified this purchase as well, this order? And then we store this in order table, and then we send a notification to EventBridge for other services to consume to say, okay, we processed the order. This is the status. You can do whatever you want with them. So it's a more a fraction of a microservice architecture you would see in an e-commerce application. For this purpose, I built a small simulator that just fires continuously a set of events to the order queue. So we kind of have a simulation running in the background that fills our queue. And our job today is to implement the Lambda function, and especially to verify whether this order queue is actually the payload that we get from the queue is actually correct and how it works. All right, cool. So this is CDK code. It's a lot of stuff. It's basically all these things I have shown you in our architecture. The general idea that we will do today is to have an order function, which is at the moment hello world. There is nothing. I can make it a little bit bigger. And we have to implement validation. So first, what we're gonna do is we are gonna take a look how the event payload look like, and then we're gonna try to validate it by hand and see where it goes, where the problems are, and how later we can switch to Powertools to make things a little bit more easier. Okay, so our order looks something like that. Let me check. It's example order JSON. So we have an order that has an ID, user ID, and a bunch of items. And these items, we have product name price, which is a number in cents, and we have a quantity. We don't have a currency, just realized, but we can add later. And so we can order a bunch of products, and the total price is something like the sum of all the prices. It needs to be added together. We also need to validate at the end of the day, is this price the sum of that, yes or no, stuff like that. So there are a couple of constraints we have, and as a first thing, we would start to implement this. So the typical case when you start with Lambda, you have basically no idea what's coming into the event. So for most people, we want to say, okay, we want to add an SQS event. Let's use another library, this one, SQS event from AWS Lambda package. So just to give you the difference for people who might not know, if I use this library, I have no idea what's inside this structure. So if I have a typing system and I say, okay, I know for sure this is definitely an SQS event, this allows me to use autocompletes and say, oh, okay, there's a bunch of records, so which is fine. And I can probably iterate over them. So I can say, oh, let me disable this annoying thing that tries to autocomplete everything. What do we do? So we have a for loop for const record of event.records. Okay, now we can access all of them, and we can say, okay, each. Let me first show you how the SQS event look like. Where is it? So, okay.
What I think it was super magic there is that, because if you typed it, you already know that that's an iterable, and like you will not have problem of like using the off operator in the for loop. So that's already like something.
It helps a lot, yeah, because most people struggle. They go somewhere in documentation and say, oh, wait a second, I need first to understand how the structure look like. So what should I look for? Then they realize, okay, this is an example of a SQS SQS event that you will receive, where you have a bunch of records. Okay, so in this case, we have records, we can iterate over them, and we can what we get for each iteration, we get this item, and in this item we have a body attribute, and in this body attribute, in this case, it's a string, but you can see it can be a JSON object, but it's stringified. So most of the time, if you send structured objects back and forth in an application, you have something like a stringified JSON, and you need to convert it back. Okay. So in our case, we iterate over all this stuff, and we try to first extract the body and then look inside the body and see how we can validate the function. Okay. So let me go back and say, I want to, can you hear me? Yeah, you can hear me. Okay, I want to JSON parse the record.body. Okay, I can see it's auto-completed. That's fine. So I say, let me define it as parse record. And now I can run some validation. I can check. I can say, okay, parse record. But I have no idea what's inside because my application has no structure. What is the JSON structure within this document? So I have to guess. I have to say, if you go back to this example, let me check. Where is it? Order. Yeah, this one. So, for example, I have to say, okay, I want to check that the price, for example, is not negative. So I say if price is less than 1, then maybe I throw error and say price should be bigger than 0, right? Or non-negative. Okay, so this is the way how you usually approach this, where you have a structure, data structure, and you try to combine things. So now we can check the price. We can also check if we can add other if statements. For example, we can check, okay, the quantity probably shouldn't also be 0, because this is also a weird part. So quantity should be bigger than 0. No, same thing as the price. If it's smaller than 1, then we throw another error and say okay. So stuff like that. And over time, you will have more if statements. You have more records. When you add something to your data structure, if the event payload changes, if, for example, we add currency and say it's euro, then suddenly we have to change our code as well, and we have to verify, okay, this is the currency we support, yes or no. How do we deal with that? How would we throw an error, or how do we approach it? So there is a lot of potential mistakes you can find. So, for example, this guy here can fail as well. So we should probably do something like try catch around that and say, okay, you know what? If it's if error, if e instance of, so we have to find, is it a JSON parse error? I don't know. I have to find, like, is it part of the parsing error? What happened in this case? Because we parsed and something went wrong, so we want to understand. We want to log it, maybe stuff like that. So this is a lot of try catch, a lot of manual work, a lot of things you need to take care of yourself. And most of the things for this problem are already solved in other domains, and of course the library as well. And this is where it comes the Zod library. Quick look at Zod, what it is. Zod is a TypeScript first schema validation with static inference. So it's a library that helps you to write your schema and to say, this is my data structure, this is how it looks like, this is the schema, and this is how you should validate. And it's very performant in terms of you don't have to go through each field. It takes a look at the entire body, entire event, and then tries to find all the problems that you have within this structure. And then it sends you back a list of all the errors. So, for example, in our case, if we find the problem with the price and we throw an error, we wouldn't find the problem with the quantity, even if it exists in our payload. So we would need to maybe have something like, let's parse errors. We need to find a list, and then every time we find something, we need to say parse error, push, and then we should add like error type, whatever, and we have to construct all the things ourselves. For Zod, it's a little bit different because you can define your schema as either a string, or there are other things like objects or lists or arrays, and Zod will take care of that. So you can, for example, say I have a user, it's an object, and it has username string, and after that you can chain more things where you can say it's a username, or for example, if it's a number, it is a non-negative number. It has a range between 1 and 10 or 55 whatsoever. So you can add more things. You can add also functions where you say, I want to change, once it parsed, I want to change how it looks like. So I want to maybe decode values. We'll see it in a bit, how it works. And the other things that also you can do is you can infer types. So once you have a schema, you can create a type, and then you can work with this type with autocomplete and IDE and everything, and it helps you to build code based on this schema as well. So Zod is amazing. We decided let's use Zod and build something on top of that for Powertools, where you can use functionality that we provide together with Zod under the hood that will help you to validate all the things. Okay, so let's take the first problem. So while we have this event, one thing we didn't do actually is we didn't validate the entire event for SQS. So there might be a case where we will, in this case, we have a type system that tells us, okay, this is the event that you probably expect. But during the runtime, this type is gone because this is pure JavaScript. So we might receive completely different event where there are no records. The event structure is different. So how do we validate it? So in our case, we probably would have to say if event records exist at all, then we should start something about that, right? Because you never know, it can be something else that we have been passed. It can be a mistake, can be configuration stuff, anything. So you can see there's a lot of boilerplate we can eliminate. So first thing we want to do, we want to parse the SQS event. We want to say, whenever we receive an event, we want to make sure it's actually an SQS event without looking into detail how the body looks like, what's inside the method. First things first, we want to fix and see how the structure is. So we have parser in our case from Powertools Python, and what it expects, we can give it a schema. In our case, we there's a lot of, let's say, famous or popular events we have from SQS. When you work with Lambda, you work with SQS, you work with EventBridge, you work with Dynamo, maybe other services as well. So a lot of these events are already known for many people, and we decided to build Zod schema for these events. So in our case, we can say we want to use SQS schema because we have created for you. Let me take a look. This is a wrong import. Yeah. So this would mean that whenever we receive event that is not as that the parser would not be able to validate it against this schema, we will get an error, and parser will complain and say, look, you got some event, and here's a list of all the things that actually do not match this event at all. Okay, so this will ensure everything we get here will be an SQS event that looks something like that, where we have records, we have message ID, all these fields are present, and they have respected value types, let's say. In most cases, strings, couple of numbers, maybe some arrays here and there, but it's very straightforward. But the idea is here. Okay, now what we also can do with parser, and this is one of the feature from the community actually, is it's called envelope. And with envelope, we want to elevate the idea that you will receive something from AWS service that wraps around your business logic. So for example, you have an SQS event, but inside this event, you have records. In each record, there is something that is a business object that you know how it looks like. And what we can do with parser, we can go ahead, use the SQS schema as an envelope and say we extract, we check entire schema, and then we extract exactly this part and give it to you in your function. So you don't have to extract it and then iterate it whatsoever. So with envelope, how it changes is you can say, I have an SQS envelope, okay? And my schema in this case is something like, where do I have the schema? So I've built a Zod schema for my order. So here, let me first show it to you. So it will be more, it will be a little bit clearer. So I have an order schema as shown. I have an ID, I have user ID, it can be string. but the ID can be nullish. Nullish means it can be undefined, it can be optional, but it can also be null. So whether ID is there or not, or it can be null as well. Then we have the user ID and the status. So the status is enum. So Zod will go and will check whether this string is actually one of these elements that we have here. So it can be pending, completed, created, in delivery, or it is canceled. And we have a list of items which Zod can define as a array of objects. And you have product ID, name, price, and quantity, and the total price as well. So the funny thing about, as I mentioned before, is you can say it's a number in terms of how it's validated, but you can also say, okay, it should be at least 10 cents, for example. We don't have products that are less. And we also don't have products that cost more than, I think it's 100 euro. It's a little bit, 10 euro. It's not that much. Let's make it a little bit more. And the quantity should be at least 1, and you're not allowed to purchase more than 5, maybe 10, whatsoever. And the cool thing about that is you can also run checks after that, Zod, to say, I mean, this is not necessary, as you can see. Probably somebody from the chat spotted. You don't have, so in our case, in the refinement, we ask, like, we have a custom validation that is not covered by this function calls. In this case, I have a check whether the quantity data is bigger than 0, which is not necessary because I have a min max actually. So I can remove it as well. Similar here, we have at least one item. We need at least one item here. So I have also min max. I can remove it. And here I have min max between the total prices. Okay. So this is a schema. This is how you define your Zod schema. And if you go back to the orders, let me check. So in this case, I say my envelope is SQS envelope. So it's an SQS message. It has a bunch of records. And I know that inside these records, there will be a body part where there is a custom object that is my order. So in my case, I want to say it's an order schema. And the type that I will get, so what parser will do, it will scan the entire SQS event. It will validate everything. It will extract the items, each item from the body part, and will validate it against order schema, and will give me back the list of orders. Okay, so now I can get rid of this stuff for now. And in my code, I can say orders. I still have to iterate probably. Order, cons order and orders. And now the funny part is I can see, for whatever reason, it's a string. Why? Let me check it again. Off, not in. Yeah. Exactly. Now I can have access to ID, total, price, everything. So I can focus now to work only with the thing I have provided, that Zod has provided and parser has provided to me. So I don't have to check them one by one. They're all validated, they're all verified, and I could do something like, okay, I want to process them. So let's say I want to say this validate payment. And I want, this method doesn't exist. So we say private validate payment method, do something. And we can return true or false based on stuff. We can send it to different servers, whatsoever. But in this case, we have only this specific object to work. We don't have to fiddle around this data structure around this object, the SQS part. We don't have to parse it. We don't have to make sure that the fields are set correct, that the keys also are correctly. set and the values are within the range that we expect actually. Yeah, so in this case, we can run auto validation. We can say, for example, this validate product and send it to the product. And what do you say at the end of the day? We say store order, okay, and we send notification, okay. Cool. All the methods are empty for now. They don't exist yet. We will build them. Okay, so let's maybe deploy it. Deploy it first. CDK and CloudFormation are way faster nowadays. Super interesting, actually. I deployed a couple of times, and it went from a couple of 5 to 15 seconds, maybe.
Yeah. The other thing I was saying is also when you deploy a CloudFront distribution, also we had much improved. I think it's really
maybe depends on the region or luck. I don't know.
Yeah.
Chad, how do you validate payloads? What other libraries do you use? Is Zod popular? Is there something else? I know there are tons of other libraries. Like, wow, we had requests from customers. Why don't you support this library and this library? So I'm curious, what are the things you use in your day-to-day work, in your production environment? Oh, we see Express Validator. Yeah.
Yeah. Somebody wants to use blank JavaScript in arrays.
It's always a way to do that at some point. Yeah. Oh, it's done, like 40 seconds. Okay, let's go back. Let's take a look how our Lambda function actually works. I'll make it big in a second. So we have a queue, and this is our order queue, and we have no messages here. So what I did in my demo application, I actually created a small feature flag where I said I can enable and disable my simulator from my parameters, so I don't have to redeploy it all the time. Okay, so now we should have something here in the queue at some point. Let's check the monitoring. Nothing there yet. We have to wait. It's a handler. Let's take a look at the simulator function. What does it tell us? Something is running. The function is running, yeah. So the idea with the simulator is that it calls every minute. Event Bridge will call the simulator function, and the function checks that is the send parameters and says, should I run some stuff or not? And then if I flip the flag, it will start sending events. Probably now.
It's not look like you.
Still empty. Okay.
So the Lambda, the generator is spitting events.
Here we go. Yeah, exactly. I can show you the generator very quickly. It's a very simple simulator that says, okay, we run, we check the flag. If it's set to false, we just skip, and then we just roll the dice and say how many iterations do you want to run, and then we have two for loops. One is for we generate event once, and then we send it multiple times. So we have multiple events, and we send a couple of batches to SQS. The idea is that sometimes you have duplicate events, and there might be solutions. Some people maybe heard of, maybe not, how to handle or deduplicate events that you process in your application, because this is a common use case. So you cannot, there is no exactly one guarantee on this services. So you have to always be cautious and take care of that. Here I used, as you might have seen in the presentation, I used logger, metric, and tracer, which looks very similar to what we have in Python, but it is applied to a class method within TypeScript. You cannot do it on the pure functions. You have to create class, and then you can add the decorator. This is how the constraints we have within TypeScript and JavaScript. Okay, so this guy runs all the time, never stops, never complains, and it sends a bunch of events. And our job is now to store this order somewhere, to validate payments, to simulate a couple of things. Let's first check what's happening within. So we have in-flight messages. So they're bouncing back and forth. As you can see, there is like nothing is happening within this function. So well, actually, there's something. If we don't process them, like if we don't report them back, if nothing is failing, I think they're removed from the queue, right? Yeah, they're removed from the queue, so they'll be deleted, which is fine. This is at the moment we are not doing anything with this stuff, and we want to store it in our what do you do? DynamoDB. Yeah, DynamoDB. Okay. So for validation, payment, and so on, so we usually would send it to a third-party service that says, okay, here's the product, here's the order we have expected. At the moment, we don't have anything within the order schema. There must be some, let's say, payment token or something that usually other systems or payment systems can use to verify whether this purchase was actually valid or not. Let's keep it like that. And the funny part, so as I mentioned, I'm adding something to my order structure, and here I have immediately payment token. I know it's a string. It has something other than that. Maybe I can add more constraints, how it looks like, what kind of length it has, what kind of structure it has, whatever. Okay, so we can add, what do we want to add? We want to add, we want to store this item in our DynamoDB database, which is a straightforward work if if you use AWS SDK. So in our case, what we need, we have a DynamoDB client, and it's a DynamoDB client, and we can also put it as a document client from DynamoDB. So lib, there are two libraries. One is lib DynamoDB, and the other is client, and the lib is a little bit higher level service SDK that allows you to handle the inserts and the updates, like to operate on a DynamoDB table a little bit more easier than just purely to construct the payload and make sure that it's correct and valid for DynamoDB. All right. So in our case, it's from client. Okay, so we construct it here. And usually, I'm just looking at the time. We have like 10 minutes left, so I will not spend too much time to that. This is something that is not like relevant for parsing and validation. I think it would be better if I will create something as a a simulator. If I change the payload somehow, and you will see the error that the validation is actually triggered.
Everything should start failing, right?
It should start. Is it? Oh, give me a sec. Okay, there are a couple of messages. Some of them deleted. I do have an overview. Let me check in the CloudWatch for tracing, which allows me to see the trace map. Okay, look how beautiful. So we have something like, oh, that's like the last 15 minutes. So we are sending, this is the simulator. It sends messages to SQS. This guy sends to triggers the Lambda function. This is part of the context that we have. And here we don't have any visibility, any traces actually. because, let me check. Yeah, it doesn't have, because we don't have any instrumentation on this Lambda function. So what we'd like to do before we go this route, we will first define, no, not define, I think we can import them, logger, not born, inject Lambda context, and here we can say log event true. So this would log automatically every event that is incoming, so we don't have to do it ourselves. So usually what developers do, like the first thing that you see in the Lambda function, they would go and say console log event or orders. So they have a visibility. How does it look like? What kind of stuff am I actually receiving? Then they look into the logs and then they verify, oh, okay, this is actually things that I have expected. Tracer, and tracer is also one of the Powertools, and we have where is it? Inject? No, it's not inject. Capture Lambda handler. Yeah, this allows us to capture this handler in our trace as well. So let's deploy it again. It's still running. I think we have a couple of messages here, not much. And we can check the trace map, how it looks like after a couple of minutes. And maybe we can think of before, while it's deploying, we can think of how we can break the simulator to say, please send some very weird message that, let's say we have like order, and then we say the total price, or the total price is -1. Okay, this should definitely fail. Or a little bit bigger.
Sounds good.
Yeah, so as you can see, it's quite fast. I'm really, really surprised nowadays. CloudFormation improved a lot in terms of performance and updates and everything. Any questions from the chat? I think Frank is the only one who's remaining on the stream. What's up? Everybody's silent.
Chat is now discussing about what's the best way to log the standard out with Node.js. I think, and yeah. So no, what I guess just let me recap a little bit of what we've been doing so far.
Yeah, sure.
For the viewers that might have joined in the last few minutes. So fundamentally, we're trying to change an event like event generator that you have created, so that the payload that is sent with the event does not match anymore with the schema that you have defined. And therefore, if that happens, we should start seeing the Lambda processor failing because of the event schema doesn't match anymore, and that would fundamentally say, hey, there's something wrong with the payload, but you didn't have to change anything within the code because everything is handled at the Powertool levels, right?
Mm-hmm. Okay, so we don't see anything yet. I think these are the old logs we have. So this is how the log look like in a structured way. When you use Powertools, we add a couple of things like cold start automatically and the context of the function, so you can structurally search by specific function. You can also add other things where, for example, if you know this function belongs to a specific tenant in your SaaS application, you can also add it as well, and then it allows you to troubleshoot for a specific customer. Say, show me all the logs only for these customers from the Lambda function. What happens there? That where we had errors, where we had timeouts, whatsoever. And the event object that we'll receive, this is an SQS record that looks very similar to what I have showed an example with the sum received. And the body, as you can see, it's a let me make it a little bit bigger. So it's a stringified version of something that was generated by a Faker library that I use for Node.js, which takes a schema and tries to generate something that matches the schema, which exactly what we want. And in our case, we want to change this total price at some point to say we want to have invalid value. Let me refresh quickly, and then we'll take a look. It looks like. Seems like it's still working. Yeah, we couldn't break it.
Damn. So we're
something is odd. Yeah.
So we've been fooling.
No, I think maybe I mean, I can do something weird and just say const formed order or invalid, and let's generate something. Come on, let's take a look what AI can help me. Okay. Yeah, add some order. I mean, it doesn't have to be something. Let's say it's
let's just break out everything.
Just send some weird stuff. Okay, so we send it here. Let's deploy it again. 20 seconds left.
Let's see if we manage to break it in 3 minutes. Always super excited when I'm defying the demo gods.
Yeah. It's always interesting how things break during the demo in unexpected ways. I mean, you can think about anything that can go wrong, but at some point you find some interesting stuff. Oh, I think something is now up. We go to
so we're accumulating messages in the queue.
yeah.
That's sure.
52. Give a sec. 52. No, still good.
There's an invoke error above.
Oh, look. Okay.
Can I? Yeah, there it is.
Look at that. There it is. So we have a total price, which is what we said. It actually worked before.
Can you scroll up just a little bit? Yeah, there it is.
Yeah. Look at that. So it says parse error, failed to parse envelope. So it did not manage to parse the entire event. And he actually said code too small. Something is too small. Expected to be minimum 1. It's a of type number. And it says the path is for the total price. And then we have also the custom message that we have defined, which helps us to see, okay, what is actually went wrong here. In this case, we know, okay, the total price must be bigger than 1. Yeah, I think the other part will break as well. Maybe take a look because we have deployed it just recently.
Yeah.
5240, I think it was the last message. No, still not get it. It takes a couple of minutes.
Yeah, but I guess we can provide updates on the Discord community.
Yeah.
Maybe paste some of the failing logs, but I do really fully trust the fact that these are probably going to break.
Definitely.
Of what the schema is not actually matching. So we're coming to the top of the hour, folks. I really wanted to thank you all for sticking around. I hope this was I think this was a really cool demo, and I think I'll start using it myself as well. But yeah, if you have any further questions, please let us know on the Discord chat. And I guess next week we'll probably have the same type of show at this time next week. So feel free to join. And Alex, thank you so much for coming today. And
thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you for showing us the power of Powertools. Thank you, folks. I'll see you next week. Bye-bye.
Take care, guys. Bye-bye.
Bye.